They seated me in the farthest corner, hidden behind a curtain of flowers so thick I might as well have been invisible. It felt like they were hoping I'd just vanish into the arrangements. I smiled to myself, knowing that Amir, my daughter's new husband, had no clue what kind of storm he was about to bring on himself. 3 days from now, he'd show up at my door with papers, and I'd laugh until my stomach hurt. If you're reading this, drop me a line and tell me where you're tuning in from. What Amir Daniels didn't realize was that his sweet, innocent mother-in-law had been keeping secrets, expensive ones. The morning had started with hope. I chose my outfit like a strategist. Nothing too flashy, but enough to say, I'm here and I matter. A simple gray dress, modest yet graceful, paired with my mother's pearls to add just enough dignity without looking fragile. My hair was styled neatly, nothing extravagant, but done with care. You look fine, Mom, Maya said when I arrived, distracted by whatever crisis the wedding coordinator was flipping out over. Fine, like a half-hearted compliment. Like I was a last-minute addition to a guest list. I watched Maya gliding around, glowing in the dress we'd kept in the family for generations. She was radiant, an image of new beginnings, while I was here to see how the game would unfold. As the guests trickled in, the social lines became clear. Amir's parents arrived like royalty, strutting into the venue with all the pomp and circumstance you could expect from people who thought their wealth made them untouchable. His mother, Claudia, wore so much gold and diamonds it was as if she was attempting to light up the whole room. She breezed through the crowd, air-kissing the important people while treating me like I was just part of the furniture. "Excuse me," I said, presenting my table assignment to the usher. "I believe there's been a little misunderstanding." He glanced at my card and gave a tight-lipped smile. "Table 17, ma'am." I was escorted to my seat, right behind what the staff so diplomatically called the floral display. From where I sat, I had a front-row view of nothing but overgrown roses, orchids, and enough greenery to create a small jungle. It was as if I was hidden away, carefully tucked in the shadows. But that didn't bother me. I wasn't here to sit quietly. From my floral prison, I watched the reception unfold in the reflection of a large mirror. There I was, the picture of calm, gray hair, modest attire alone behind the thicket of flowers. An invisible widow who wasn't supposed to be noticed. Meanwhile, Maya was the picture of joy, radiant in her family's heirloom lace, glowing with the kind of joy that makes everyone else forget their own problems. But something caught my eye: Amir. He was working the room with precision, offering different smiles to different people. To the wealthy, he was all charm. To those who could offer him nothing, he was polite but distant. And to me? Well, he didn't know it yet, but I was about to become his worst nightmare. Amir's smile was like a weapon, all polished and perfect, aimed at anyone he thought could be of use. I watched him glide through the crowd with practiced ease, stopping to talk here, laugh there, always putting on a show. He had a smile for every occasion, a smile that meant absolutely nothing. And when he finally walked up to me, I knew exactly what that smile meant. "Mrs. Daniels," Amir said, his voice smooth like butter. "Isn't this just incredible? The night, the ceremony, it's all magical." His eyes were filled with that practiced charm, the kind that people like him use to get exactly what they want. "Absolutely," I replied, leaning back in my chair and flashing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "It's a beautiful evening, though I must admit, the view from here is quite enlightening." I let the words hang in the air, sharp and tinged with something less than pleasant. Amir's smile faltered for a second, just enough for me to catch it. He was used to people like me, people he thought were easily manipulated. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. "I was hoping we could spend some time together soon," he said, his tone now shifting, getting more intimate. "Really get to know each other. After all, we're family now." I gave a soft laugh, one that could have belonged to a woman decades younger. How refreshing. Most people usually try to get to know each other before marrying into the family. But I do admire your enthusiasm to take the backdoor route. That earned me just a flicker of hesitation, barely noticeable, but I saw it. Amir didn't like being questioned, especially not by someone he thought was harmless. But I wasn't the naive widow he imagined. No, I had plans of my own. Amir seemed to shake off the moment, flashing that smile again, as if I hadn't just put a crack in his polished veneer. How about we meet for dinner sometime this week? Just the two of us. I have a few ideas I'd like to run past you, he said, his voice oozing with that all-too-familiar tone of someone about to make a move. Family collaboration, I said, mimicking his words. How deliciously ominous. I leaned back, making sure to let the sarcasm drip off my tongue like honey. Thursday work for you? I'd love a good mystery dinner. His eyes brightened, the predator in him clearly waking up. Perfect. I know a quiet spot downtown, very private, very comfortable. We'll talk about the future. Oh, how I was looking forward to this. The evening moved on, and I slipped away during the father-daughter dance. I needed a moment to prepare. In the elegant restroom, I fixed my lipstick, adjusted my pearls, and practiced the art of looking like a harmless widow in the mirror. When I returned to my floral prison, I found Amir once again working his charm on the elderly couple next to me. They were eating up every word he said, like it was the best thing they'd ever heard. The Hendersons. They had known Robert for years, Maya's father's old business partners, and Amir was just the type of guy they'd love to take under their wing. As I sat down, Amir noticed me again. Mrs. Daniels, he said, his voice smooth as silk. I'm really looking forward to Thursday. So am I, dear. I replied sweetly, giving him the smile of someone who knew far more than she let on. The days after the wedding were a strange, almost surreal mix of calm and tension. Maya called me daily, her voice bubbling with excitement over her new life. Amir is just so thoughtful, Mom, she would say. He's always planning for the future, making sure we're set financially. Financial security. She'd say it like it was something romantic. The word floated through our conversations like smoke from a fire, and I knew it was only a matter of time before Amir's true colors would show. Sweetheart, I said one evening, a husband should always think about money, especially other people's money. Oh, Mom, don't be dramatic. Maya had laughed, clueless. I could tell she wasn't ready to hear the sarcasm I was masking behind every word. The days crawled by, and Wednesdays seemed to stretch out forever. But when Thursday came, I slipped into my modest black dress, carefully chosen to convey just the right balance of respectability without prosperity. Robert's broken watch, still dignified from a distance, clipped to my wrist. A simple outfit, a quiet weapon. I wasn't just going to meet Amir. I was going to make him believe he had the upper hand before I turned the tables. The restaurant he picked out was exactly what I expected, one of those places where the waiters acted as though you were responsible for their existential crises. I spotted Amir already seated, looking like he was born for this kind of place, tailored suit, confident smile. He stood when I arrived, practically leaping out of his seat. Sylvia, you look radiant. Thank you, Amir, I said coolly, taking my seat. This place certainly has a charm to it. He chuckled, clearly unaware of the storm that was brewing beneath my calm exterior. We ordered wine, and he immediately took charge, recommending some overly expensive bottle that probably had more syllables than my high school diploma. He swirled the wine in his glass, his eyes never leaving mine. So, he began, how are you managing without Robert? I mean, I know it's a lot to handle on your own with the house, all the decisions. I leaned back, letting him dig himself deeper. Oh, I'm managing. Robert always said I had opinions enough for 3 people. Keeps me busy. Amir's practiced laugh floated into the air, and he nodded as though he understood. That's great, really. But I imagine sometimes it must be overwhelming. All those responsibilities, the house. Oh, no, I said with a soft smile. Not overwhelming. Just educational. As they say, it keeps me on my toes. He seemed to take the bait. You know, Sylvia, I've been thinking. You've built a beautiful life, but I can't help but worry about the financial aspects of it all. People, even well-meaning ones, can take advantage of someone in your unique situation. The words hung in the air like a veil. Unique situation. Amir was fishing, but I wasn't about to let him reel me in. Well, I'm certainly no expert in finances, I said, feigning a smile. But I do keep my lawyer busy. Amir shifted uncomfortably. Yes, yes. But wouldn't it be easier if you had someone helping you? Someone you could trust? I mean, we're family now. He leaned in slightly, the predator's mask slipping for just a moment. I raised an eyebrow. How thoughtful. I'm sure you mean well. But I've been consulting with my attorney about some protective measures. Just in case. A flash of recognition crossed his face. I could see him recalculating in real time. He was trying to gauge whether I was as clueless as he hoped or if I had already caught on to his scheme. He glanced at the documents he'd placed on the table like they were his trump card. I brought some paperwork, he said, pulling out a manila folder. Just some basic safeguards, Sylvia. Nothing to worry about. Just making sure you're well protected. I picked up the folder with all the enthusiasm of someone handling a ticking time bomb. I opened it slowly, pretending to read each page. Power of attorney. Medical decision-making. Full control, disguised as concern. This is quite thorough, I said, making sure to sound impressed. How comprehensive. He smiled, too pleased with himself. Well, it's all about making sure you're taken care of. No one wants to see someone in your position vulnerable. I smiled back, a sweet, disarming smile. And yet, I can't help but wonder, how did you know I needed this kind of protection? His eyes flickered, but his smile remained in place. Just a precaution. For your peace of mind. Oh, I see, I said, placing the folder down carefully. But you did bring a notary, didn't you? I would feel so much more comfortable having someone explain this in terms that my simple mind can grasp. His smile faltered for a split second, and in that moment, I knew I had him exactly where I wanted him. Amir shifted in his seat, clearly trying to regain his composure. Well, I think it would be best if we finalize this tonight, he said, his tone suddenly a bit more forceful, his earlier charm now giving way to impatience. These matters are easier to handle swiftly, No need for unnecessary delays. Oh, I agree, I said, giving him my sweetest smile. But I'm afraid I wasn't prepared for a notary today. I thought we were just having dinner. He hesitated, his eyes scanning my face, trying to figure out if I was just being difficult or genuinely unaware. You're right, of course, he said, a hint of annoyance creeping into his voice. I can always bring one next time. But it's better to handle these things as soon as possible. I leaned back, casually stirring my wine. I suppose you're right, but I would feel more comfortable discussing this with my lawyer first, just to make sure everything is in order. His eyes flashed for a moment, and I could see the gears turning in his head. He wasn't expecting me to throw up a roadblock, especially not one this simple. I could almost hear the gears in his mind grinding as he considered his options. The conversation continued for a few more minutes, with Amir trying to sell me on the urgency of the situation. But I wasn't biting. I could see the cracks in his polished exterior, and I wasn't about to make it easy for him. As we finished dinner, I made it clear that I would take my time. Too much time, in fact. I could feel the tension radiating off of him as we left the restaurant. The moment I got back home, I couldn't stop thinking about the papers. The idea of someone trying to manipulate me, to control everything I had left after Robert's death, made my skin crawl. But I also knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. I wasn't going to let Amir steal from me, not after all I'd been through. That night, as I lay in bed, I made a decision. I wasn't going to play nice. I was going to play to win. And I had the resources to make that happen. I couldn't let Amir's smooth talk deceive me again. The next steps would need careful planning. But I was ready for whatever came next. The next few days passed slowly, but I could feel the storm brewing. Maya called every day, still blissfully unaware of the tension between Amir and me. She was too wrapped up in the glow of her newlywed life to notice that her husband wasn't the charming man he appeared to be. Mom, you won't believe how much Amir's been helping us with the house. He's so good with putting things together. He's shown me so much love and care. He's always thinking ahead about our future and the family we are going to raise together. I bit back my frustration. It's good to have someone who's good with kind and concern, but remember, sweetheart, not everyone who's good with money has good intentions. He's your husband, but you have to be careful. Maya brushed it off, thinking I was just being paranoid. But I had to let her learn for herself. I could tell she wasn't ready to accept the truth, not yet. I couldn't push her too hard, but I could help her see the bigger picture when the time was right. She would have to come to her own conclusions. In the meantime, I kept my focus sharp. I knew Amir wasn't done trying to manipulate me. But the next time he came around, I would be ready for him. Thursday arrived, and with it, Amir's invitation. I had a plan, one that would bring the truth to light. I put on my best widow attire, a simple dress that didn't scream wealth but whispered elegance. I had no intention of letting him think I was some vulnerable, clueless woman. When he arrived, he was all smiles, acting like everything was going according to plan. He had the notary with him this time, a woman who looked too eager to be part of whatever game Amir was playing. But I wasn't going to make it easy for them. I let him start, letting him run his usual spiel. He was smooth, talking about how he wanted to protect me, how he cared about my financial future. But the moment he mentioned me signing away control, something inside me snapped. I looked him dead in the eyes. Amir, this isn't about protection. This is about control. And I'm not giving it to you. His smile faltered just for a second, but I saw it. The mask slipping. Sylvia, he began, his voice colder now. I'm just trying to help. I want to make sure you're protected. This is for your own good. I shook my head, a small smile playing on my lips. Help, I said, leaning forward slightly. No, Amir. This isn't help. This is an attempt to steal from me, disguised as concern. You've been trying to get me to sign away control of my own life, and I'm not going to let that happen. His face tightened, but he quickly regained his composure. Sylvia, please. I've been trying to do what's best for you. This is complicated, but it's the only way to secure your future. I could feel the anger rising, but I kept my voice calm. My future? You mean your future. Because you see, I've already had a future. One that I built with my husband. And that's what you're after. It's not just the money, it's control. And I'm not giving it to you. I could tell that his patience was wearing thin. The way his jaw clenched told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't used to someone like me standing up to him. But I wasn't going to back down. I had been underestimated for too long. And this was the moment I was going to turn everything around. Amir didn't say anything for a long moment, his eyes darting between me and the papers on the table. I could tell he was trying to figure out his next move. But there was something else there, fear. It wasn't obvious at first, but it was there. The way his fingers tapped against the table nervously. The way his smile never quite reached his eyes anymore. Look, he finally said, his voice more controlled than before. You don't have to act like this. I'm here to help you. I've been nothing but supportive. Don't you think it's time you trusted me? I let out a laugh, bitter and sharp. Trust you? After everything you've tried to pull? Do you think I'm that naive? The silence in the room was deafening as I leaned back in my chair, waiting for him to speak. But he didn't. Instead, he stared at the papers on the table, as if they held the answers to something I wasn't supposed to know. You've been playing this game for too long, Amir, I said, my voice steady but firm. And you're about to lose. I could feel the shift in the room, the power dynamics that had once been in his favor slowly but surely falling into mine. He was rattled, and I could tell it. The calm, collected persona he had been trying to sell me for weeks was starting to crack. He glanced down at the folder in front of him, then back at me. Sylvia, you don't know what you're doing. You're making a mistake. I don't think so, I replied, my voice steady. The mistake was thinking I was some helpless old woman you could manipulate. You're not the first person who's tried, and you won't be the last. But I've learned something in my 70 years. Never underestimate what people are capable of when they have nothing left to lose. I reached for the papers in front of me, the ones he wanted me to sign. I've already got a lawyer, Amir. And he's going to look at these safeguards of yours. And trust me, he's going to love hearing about your protection plan. His face drained of color, and for a moment, I saw panic flicker in his eyes. He knew it was over. He had no leverage left. The next few days felt like a game of cat and mouse. Maya kept calling, as if nothing had happened. She told me about their plans, how Amir was so thoughtful and responsible. It made my blood boil. I could hear the happiness in her voice, and I hated that she couldn't see what was right in front of her. She was blind to the truth about her new husband. He wasn't the charming man she thought he was. He was a predator, just like so many others before him. And if I didn't do something soon, she'd be the next victim. But I couldn't rush her. She had to come to the realization on her own. For now, all I could do was watch and wait, preparing for the next move in this game. Every night, I went over my plan, refining the details. I had resources now. The safety net Robert had left me, the trust, the secret accounts. I was ready to use everything at my disposal to make sure Amir didn't succeed. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. This was about protecting Maya. And I wasn't going to let anyone destroy her future, not if I could help it. I made the call. The one I'd been dreading, but knowing it was the right thing to do. Carol Peterson, the attorney I had been consulting with for months, was waiting for me to reach out. I wasn't sure if she knew just how deep the situation had gotten, but now, I didn't have a choice. Carol, it's Sylvia. We need to meet. She didn't hesitate. I'll be right there, she said, her voice a calm beacon in the storm. When she arrived, I walked her through everything, every conversation, every move Amir had made. I told her about the papers, the power of attorney, and the so-called protection plan he'd been trying to get me to sign. She listened intently, making notes, her face growing more serious as I spoke. "We've got him," she said finally, her tone resolute. "We've got all the evidence we need to take him down." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but I knew this wasn't going to be easy. Amir wouldn't go down without a fight. But I was ready for that fight. This time, the predator wouldn't win. The weight of everything began to press down on me as the day of the meeting with Amir approached. I had all the evidence I needed to bring him down, but it felt so surreal, as if I were a character in a twisted drama I couldn't escape from. The private investigator, Shonda, had been working tirelessly in the background. Every report, every photo she presented to me made it more certain that Amir had been living a lie for years. I didn't share my plans with Maya, not yet. She still adored him, even though I could see the subtle cracks in their relationship when she spoke of him. She had to be protected, even if that meant watching her make mistakes for a while longer. The house felt more empty than usual, though. Robert's absence was felt in every corner. I sat in the kitchen, reading through the documents again and again, hoping to find a thread I'd missed before. But there was nothing more. I was ready. And Amir, with all his cunning, was walking right into my trap. I couldn't help but think of how different this whole situation would have been if Robert were still here. But now, I had his legacy and his resources, and with them, I was going to fight for what was right. The meeting with Shonda was the turning point. She confirmed everything I feared, and everything I needed to hear. Amir wasn't just some isolated criminal. He was a part of a larger network, one that spanned states and had targeted countless vulnerable people. Elderly widows like me, but indirectly getting married to their daughters and then convincing the widows to transfer their wealth and finances to him, all in the name of taking care of their daughters and helping the widows keep things in place while they are gone. His charm, his manipulative smile, it was all part of a pattern. But this time, the game was different. This time, he wasn't the one in control. If you are watching this, I want you to know that there are me like Amir out there. They will not directly come for you. They will go through your daughter. Watch out for them, and be careful. "We've got everything we need to make sure he falls," Shonda said, her voice clipped. She slid a thick file in front of me, showing the layers of his crimes. "We set him up next time he walks through that door. Get him to talk, get him to act like he's in control, and we'll capture every confession." I nodded, my resolve solidifying. This ends now. The trap was set. Amir didn't know it yet, but he was already a cornered animal. And the moment he walked into my house, thinking it was his victory, would be the moment everything he'd worked for crumbled. But I couldn't afford to let my guard down. I could feel the tension in the air, heavy and thick. It would only be a matter of days before the confrontation came, and I knew I had to stay one step ahead. The days leading up to the meeting felt like a countdown to a storm I couldn't avoid. I tried to keep things normal with Maya, though it wasn't easy. Every time she called, I had to fight the urge to spill everything. She was so blinded by Amir's promises, so convinced he was the answer to her problems. If she only knew what I knew. I took the time to prepare. The house was immaculate, a false veneer of tranquility, as though nothing was wrong. But beneath the surface, I was bracing for impact. When Amir came into my home, it would be under my terms. I knew exactly what he was going to say, how he'd try to manipulate me. He'd try to make me feel small, unimportant, like I didn't have a clue. But I wasn't the naive woman I had been when he first came into my life.
No.
Now I was playing a dangerous game of chess. And in this game, I wouldn't just be a pawn. I would be the queen. When Amir arrived, my heart skipped a beat, but I didn't let it show. He walked into the living room, his usual cocky smile plastered on his face, briefcase in hand. I offered him tea, but he declined, eager to get straight to the point. "So, Sylvia, have you thought it over?" he asked, his voice slick with that practiced charm. I smiled sweetly, my voice dripping with false innocence. "I've thought about it a lot, Amir. I've made my decision." He sat down, leaning forward, that glint of triumph in his eyes. "Good. I knew you'd see reason. But I didn't. I wasn't here to make a deal. I was here to make sure that every inch of his carefully constructed world collapsed." I slid the folder across the table, Shonda's work, the documents proving everything. His involvement in a network of fraud, the papers, the money trail, it was all there. Amir's eyes flickered for just a second, but he quickly regained his composure. "I see you've been busy," he said, but I could hear the tremor in his voice. "I've been more than busy, Amir," I said, my tone unwavering. "You've been busy, too. But now, your work ends." For the first time since I'd met him, Amir looked unsure. His confidence faltered. I could feel the shift in the air, the growing tension between us. This wasn't the easy game he thought he was playing. I wasn't the naive widow he'd expected. He tried to recover. "You don't have to do this, Sylvia. We can still work something out. I'm just trying to help you." "Help me?" I repeated, my voice low and cold. "You were never trying to help me. You were trying to steal from me. From my family. From everything Robert worked for." He went still, and in that silence I knew. It was too late. He couldn't escape. The trap had been sprung. "Do you know what happens to people who take what's not theirs?" I asked, a cold smile curling on my lips. "They lose it all." And just like that, the game was over. The air in the room went still, a heavy silence settling over us as the reality of what was about to happen hit him. Amir shifted in his seat, eyes flicking over the evidence I laid out in front of him. His confident, manipulative smile slowly began to crack. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words faltered before he could even get them out. He was cornered, and he knew it. For a moment, I thought I saw genuine panic in his eyes. That glimmer of fear, the kind a predator feels when it realizes it's no longer the hunter, but the hunted. I leaned forward, letting the silence stretch between us like a tightrope. "You've been playing a dangerous game, Amir. But the thing about games is, someone always has to lose. And today, that someone is you." His eyes darted to the door, his mind racing for a way out. But there was no escape. The trap was already set. The sound of the doorbell ringing snapped him from his thoughts. The police had arrived, just as we'd planned. They filed in, handcuffing Amir with professional precision. I didn't look away, watching as his world unraveled before him. His arrogant, false smile was replaced by an expression of raw disbelief, and for the first time, I saw him truly vulnerable. I didn't need to say anything more. He tried to fight, tried to claim innocence, but it was too late. The evidence was irrefutable. Every word he'd said, every lie he'd spun, was captured and ready to be used against him. The law was on my side now. As I watched Amir taken away, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the peace of having finally won, but the quiet certainty that I had done what needed to be done. I had fought a battle I never asked for, but one that had become unavoidable the moment he targeted us. He thought he could play me, that I'd be just another easy target in his web of lies and manipulation. But I wasn't just another helpless widow. I was a woman who had been through too much, learned too many painful lessons, and built too many walls to be taken down by someone like him. I thought of Robert, of his legacy, of the years he spent building a life for us. I thought of Maya and how, even through the confusion and pain, she would eventually understand that the world wasn't black and white, that sometimes the line between right and wrong had to be drawn with blood, sweat, and sacrifice.
My phone rang.
Maya's name flashed on the screen, her voice a mixture of fear and confusion. "Mom, what's going on? What did you do?" she asked, panic thick in her voice. I exhaled slowly, sitting down in the quiet of my living room. The weight of the moment washed over me, but I held my ground. I did what needed to be done, sweetheart. I protected us. No one, especially Amir, was ever going to take this family down. Her silence on the other end was deafening. She didn't understand yet. She wouldn't, not until the full truth came out. But I had no doubt she would eventually see the cost of trust, the consequences of letting a predator too close. And as I stood there, watching Amir vanish into the back of a police car, I realized something powerful. It's not the wealth or the power that defines you. It's the courage to stand up when the world expects you to fall. This wasn't just about revenge or the money. It was about the choices we make, about showing the world that no one, no matter how charming or ruthless, could ever take what's truly ours. And for the first time after Robert's death, I felt alive. I knew I had fought for us, and for what truly mattered to him.